Welcome back to Raidercast, covering your campus and community news here on Duo County Channel 2, Video on Demand. I'm Mariah Stearns.
And I'm Jake Saylor. Thank you for joining us for this month's edition of Raidercast. We'll begin with our most recent news story. Lindsey Wilson College is off to a great fall semester. LWC recently welcomed back both new and old students to the AP White Columbia campus on Saturday, August 15th.
More than 1,025 students will live in LWC residence halls for the 2015-2016 school year, with a total enrollment nearing 2,600 for the fifth consecutive year. According to the LWC Public Relations Office, LaFawn Nettles, LWC Director of Student Activities, who coordinated the majority of the orientation events on Move-In Weekend, said the purpose of the event is to, quote, meeting, greeting, making new friends, and building relationships. Nettles went on to say, quote, it's just about getting people out of their rooms, meeting people and making new friends so they don't feel homesick, unquote. Freshmen enter as the class of 2019 and were able to attend a kickoff ceremony held in Roberta D. Kramer Dining and Conference Center. At the ceremony, Vice President for Student Services and Enrollment Management, Dean Adams, told the freshmen that they are the members of the brightest and most academically decorated classes in the college's 112-year history. The LWC PR office reported Adams said, quote, we are expecting big things from you guys in the classroom, unquote. Adams continued with, quote, you guys are getting ready for a life-changing experience. You're going to be taught by incredibly caring and knowledgeable faculty. We're all entering into a partnership of teaching and learning, and I promise you, we're going to do our part. We just need you guys to do your part. In a few years, we'll all celebrate this partnership when you walk across the stage and earn your college degree, unquote.
Freshman enrollment is up from 594 in 2014 to 607 in 2015.
Stay tuned and we'll return with our newest segment here on Raidercast, The Geek Critique, with Jay Estes.
You know, they would talk about the city on a hill, the beacon on a hill, and that's kind of how I felt Lindsey was. It's, you know, this very metropolitan college, really, when you look at the student body and how diverse it is, in the middle of this rural community.
But it's certainly that school that is in the midst of that transformation to something way beyond what any of us could ever hope for or imagine a small college to become.
This is Geek Critique. I'm your geek, Jay Estes. Whether it's Star Wars vs. Star Trek or Wizards vs. Hobbits, I'm going to cover behind the scenes and the frontline news of everything geek, nerd, and super. Hero or villain, I don't judge. Ant-Man. Not a superhero that many people knew about in the Marvel Universe, but after the movie being released in mid-July to some surprisingly positive reviews, it has been accepted into the Marvel Cinematic Universe by fans and critics alike. To spare people from spoilers, Ant-Man is about a burglar named Scott Lang, armed with a super suit that has the ability to shrink in size but increase in strength. He helps Dr. Hank Pym, the designer of the suit, pull off a heist to save the world. In order to do this, Scott needs to channel his inner hero and forgive himself for his past. Starring Paul Rudd as Ant-Man, Michael Douglas as Dr. Hank Pym, and Corey Stoll as the villain Yellow Jacket, the movie is very loosely based on the comics of the same name. Even though the movie didn't do too bad by critics' standards, getting a 7.5 out of 10 on average, it's considered a flop to Marvel. Marvel movies, on average, make back what they spend in production on opening weekend. However, Ant-Man only made $58 million, only $3 million more than their lowest acclaimed film, The Incredible Hulk, which made a disappointing $55 million. However, it made up for its shortcomings on opening weekend by far surpassing the Fantastic Four reboot by Sony in the eyes of the audiences and critics. The reboot, led by a pretty impressive cast, only scored an average 1 out of 10 by the critics. Ouch. Sony, you should really loosen your grip on those movie rights. And now the critique. Personally, for me, there is no comparison. Ant-Man was exactly what the Marvel Universe needed. A funny tie-in film that not only warmed hearts, but introduced another character that everyone can love. However, it would do people well to know that the MCU is essentially another universe, because if it wasn't, Hank Pym would almost be a villain. As for the new Fantastic Four, I actually liked the old ones. The movies seemed like one big roundup, and while some can argue that for other Marvel movies, I have to say that the plotless scenes and pointless runarounds didn't leave me wanting more from this four. The Marvel Universe, even just the cinematic one, is vast and honestly kind of complicated. Did you know that The Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, and Thor all take place within the same week? Yeah, I sure hope Nick Fury and Agent Coulson got overtime that week.
You become a problem I have to deal with. Contrary to your belief, you are not the center of my universe.
Yeah, I get
I
it.
have bigger problems than you in the Southwest region to deal with. Hit it.
Obviously, Marvel movies set a pretty high bar, but what is it about this cinematic phenomenon that catches so many people? The heroes in tights? The special effects? What about the amazing history that ties them all together? When going to these movies, a lot of people don't know much about the original history, so while I'd love to unravel it all, let's start with what at first seemed small. So what have these movies been leading up to? Surely some have heard about the two-part super movie, The Avengers Infinity Wars, to be released in 2018 and 2019. But the answer has been staring us in the face. Allow me to introduce you to the Infinity Stones. Oh, my new friends, before creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of the system were forged into concentrated ingots, Infinity Stones. This is how they are first described to us by the Collector, an alien who goes about collecting impossible things across the universe. The Infinity Stones are 6 incredibly powerful stones that are connected to different aspects of the universe. Each stone possesses capabilities that have changed over the years due to effect by random civilizations that have come into contact with them. Now, to use these stones, you have to be crazy powerful. Regular beings who try to use the stones are usually destroyed, like in Thor: Dark World when Jane Foster is struck ill when infected by the ether, or when the Red Skull disappeared when he tried to use the Tesseract in Captain America: The First Avenger. And who can forget poor Karina, who was incinerated by the orb in Guardians of the Galaxy. So what can these stones do? Why do people want them? Where are they now? The first stone we'll look at is the Space Stone. It's contained in a little blue cube everyone has come to know and love as the Tesseract. Yep, the power of the stone is contained inside the Tesseract, not the Tesseract itself. We first see this in Captain America being handled by the evil forces of Hydra. Its true power is theorized to be that it is able to transport beings anywhere in the universe.
Yeah, the cube is a doorway to the other end of space, right? Doors open from both sides.
But currently the Tesseract and the Infinity Stone within it are safe in Asgard. Next, we'll look at the Mind Stone. Now, before Avengers Age of Ultron, no one could have guessed that the Mind Stone was actually inside Loki's scepter, the same scepter he used to brainwash Hawkeye in the Avengers movie. The stone's power seems to lie in the matter of bending others to the will of the user of the stone, as well as increasing the intelligence of the one using it. However, the stone is in the possession of a new Avenger called the Vision. The next Infinity Stone, unlike others, has not appeared in solid form, the Reality Stone, which is contained in the liquid form of the ether. Being in this form allows anyone wanting to use the stone to absorb the ether, allowing them to have seemingly unmatched strength, power, and capabilities. We see the ether and its power in Thor: Dark World, where Jane Foster, the love of Thor, absorbs it into her body, becoming its host. The ether and the Reality Stone within it are safely with man known as the Collector, or so we can assume. His place kind of exploded in Guardians of the Galaxy. Finally, we have the Power Stone. This stone is protected inside an object known as the Orb. The stone is filled with unstable energy that, used at its maximum capacity, can obliterate entire planets. We see this Infinity Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy, being chased down by Ronan the Destroyer, who is hoping to use the stone to destroy an entire world known as Xandar. However, the Guardians of the Galaxy thwart that plan and give the stone to a protective force known as the Nova Corps. There are still 2 more stones that have yet to reveal themselves in the MCU, and that is the Soul and Time Stones, respectively. There's no telling where these stones will show up, but I'm sure we'll see them before we get to Avengers Infinity Wars. So while that's my time here on Geek Critique, be sure to stay away from roaming Chitauri and to keep an eye out for those stones. You never know who or what might be after them. Now I'll toss it at James McIntosh for theater news. I've been Jay Estes, your geek, and that was my critique.
October is the month of colorful leaves, Halloween, and, this year, the debut of Lindsey Wilson College's first full-length play directed by a student, Vanities, directed by Susie Harrington.
I think the overall, not theme of the play, but something that's really strong is change, and that things change over the course of their lives because they start out in the 60s. And then they go through to the 70s. So a lot of things happen in history and everything during that time. And so all these girls are experiencing all that change. And in the end, they're all totally different people. It reminds me of like experience through college, just coming here, being one person, and then leaving a totally different person. So that's how I relate to it, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to it in that way.
Robert Brock, assistant professor of theater at Lindsey Wilson College, is also excited about the play. Recalling faculty-approved student projects from his old school, he presented that idea to his students. Susie Harrington was the first one to take on that responsibility.
So this is the first of what I hope will be a number of, endeavors like this where students take the initiative. That's what I was looking for.
Vanities will be presented at the VP Henry Auditorium at 7 p.m. Central Time every night between October 21st and 23rd. Due to the intimate on-stage seating arrangements, there will only be 50 seats available for each performance, so reservations should be made by emailing Robert Brock at brockr@lindsey.edu.
Welcome back to the Blue Raider Sports segment. I'm Mariah Stearns with Jake Saylor.
Here on Raidercast, we got the scoop on Blue Raider ball. Let's take a look.
Three-time Mid-South Conference first-team honoree. He's played in 64 games, been in goal for 5,503 minutes, has 152 saves, 25 shutouts, and 1 national championship, all in just 3 years. Yuta Nomura is a goalkeeper from Tokyo, Japan, and this is his last year playing under the bright lights of Walter S. Ruling Stadium here at Lindsey Wilson. With a resume like Yuta's, you have to wonder how such a talent came to Lindsey Wilson. Yuta explains that his scenario was much less than typical.
When I was in high school back home, I wanted to go to US because I wanted to speak English and then play football, which is soccer. And I didn't have any connections to come to US. And I found out that there's USS scholarship tryout in Lindsey and some school in Georgia, and I got offer from 4 different schools, and then I picked this school because they gave me a good scholarship, and then I could play soccer and I can learn English at the same time. Different school has like a different rules that if I study in English, I can't play soccer. And then a lot of people told me that Lindsey Wilson is the best college to play for US.
Coming to Lindsey was definitely a win-win for both Yuta and LWC, but Yuta says that one of his biggest feats was getting over the language barrier when he got to the US.
But first year I couldn't do anything. As I said, I couldn't speak English at all. So I didn't understand what the coach said, teammates said, and professors said, teammates said. So I was having a hard time. So basically what I did was I didn't speak Japanese at all for like 1 semester, 2 semesters, because I really wanted to learn English. And after a year and a year and a half, I kind of get used to speak English.
Although Yuta, through help from friends, teammates, and mentors, got over the language barrier, it left him with a hard decision on whether or not to redshirt last year.
To be honest, I didn't want a redshirt last year because I wanted to compete with different goalkeepers. But at the same time, as I said, I couldn't speak English at all. And then I failed a couple classes, so I couldn't graduate on time, and I knew it. But I wanted to play right before I graduate, so it was hard for me to decide, but I chose to be a redshirt. And it was tough for me to just sit out and do nothing for the game. But it definitely helped me because I knew what's going to happen next summer, so I always focusing on next semester. So every practice I did all my best, and I helped different goalkeepers, and I think that helped me a lot and prepare for this season and then the summer season.
For Yuta, soccer is a way of life with an ultimate goal of going pro. Until then, he intends on taking it step by step, day by day.
I don't really think about next year or 2 years later or 3 years later. I'm just playing right now for the team and for myself. So if I win national championship this year, that's gonna help me for sure. And then if we win national championship, I'm gonna think about next step.
We'll keep you updated with feature stories each month in Blue Raider Sports. For more information on all Lindsey Wilson sports news, visit the Blue Raiders sports homepage at www.lindseyathletics.com.
That will conclude this month's edition of Raidercast.
We'll see you here on Duo County Channel 2, video on demand, and online at youtube.com/LWC Raidercast. We'll be here covering your campus and community news. Thanks for joining us. This has been Mariah Stearns with Jake Saylor. Have a great day.